Video games are pretty good at getting us to do things. Generally all they have to do is give us an on-screen prompt like press B to crouch, or while in stealth press square to kiss your wife.
Making you feel things, now that's a lot harder, especially if the thing you're meant to be feeling is conflicted about your actions. Plenty of games try to introduce some moral substance to proceedings, allowing you to do things that run counter to our sense of what is fair and what is hurtful, but not all of them succeed. When they do though, oh man do they make us feel like crap.
So here are some games that have made us question whether we are secretly really monsters after all, like Red Dead Redemption, which asks if it's really honourable to shoot a horse in the head, even if watching it fall down is incredibly funny.
Bang! Down you go, Seabiscuit, and down goes my honour rating. Red Dead Redemption was a story about a bad man who tried to change his ways only to find his past coming back to haunt him. John Marston's tale of survival gave the player a pretty broad scope in terms of how to approach the Wild West. Do good deeds, become famous for being a nice guy. Do bad things, become famous for being a good-for-nothing varmint. A simple mechanic, yes, but there was something about the fame and honour trackers, small though they were, that made doing bad things feel especially bad. It felt like the game was disappointed in you. Hearing a cheerful "Hello, Mr. Marston" made me feel great if I'd been a good cowboy, but if I'd just finished killing a whole pile of innocents, it made me feel like a fraud. It made me feel horrible, and that was a real problem because I just couldn't stop shooting horses. But really, I think the honour system in RDR was so effective because it formed part of the background to your adventures, not the centrepiece. Because when you place a moral quandary front and centre in your game, it transforms a nifty mechanic into a huge promise on which you have to deliver, but may not be able to. Oh, hello Bioshock, I didn't see you there. When Bioshock introduced us to the watery world of Rapture, it did so with great fanfare regarding the moral choices you could make in-game. Do you rescue the tortured little sisters at the expense of some extra Adam, the game's all-important plasmid giver, or do you kill scores of children to better equip yourself for the challenges to come? It all sounded very impressive, but quickly fell short of the mark thanks to the superficiality of the game's moral choices. With a negligible difference in the Adam yield, the impact of killing or saving the little sisters basically amounted to which cutscene you watched at the end of the game. It wasn't bad, it was just underwhelming. Dishonored, on the other hand, made you feel the consequences of your actions by slowly twisting the game world into something as monstrous as the things you'd done.
The game basically floods itself with rats while screaming, "Look at what you've done, are you happy now?"
If you romped through the city of Dunwall, murdering everyone you came across in Dishonored, you'd push the chaos rating up. This in turn would increase the pestilential rat plague's hold on the city, along with the heavy-handedness of the police presence. It made Dunwall a genuinely unpleasant place and left you in no doubt as to whose fault that was. Yours. It was your fault.
Of course, not all moral quandaries have to be played out with a plague of rats or a child who's possessed. You could just starve one to death off camera instead.
In Papers, Please, you play as a passport control officer in a fictional Eastern Bloc country, checking the credentials of people trying to enter the glorious nation of Arstotzka. How many people you process directly translates into how much money you get given at the end of the day, but the problem is, checking people gets increasingly complicated, so it takes longer, and making mistakes will also cost you money. Then when you get home, you have to divide what small amount of cash you manage to earn between paying the rent, heating your home, and feeding your family. Papers, Please places you in a proper bind because you're forced to constantly evaluate whether you have room for sentimentality in your actions. Do you feed your family tonight or keep the money to give yourself a bit of a cash buffer? Papers, Please is a game in which you're trying to do the right thing, but the necessities of survival get in the way and make you do some things you're utterly, horribly ashamed of. And it's not the only game to nail that desperate tension, because oh my god did this war of mine ever make me feel like the worst person alive. Based on the 1992 to 1996 siege of Sarajevo, this war of mine sees you try to guide a few desperate civilians through each grueling day, scavenging for supplies and fending off raiders as best you can. I was playing this war of mine with my friend Joe the other day, each of us taking it in turns to control the characters as we tried to improve our home, scrape enough food together, and keep ourselves warm. One of our guys was sick and despite our best efforts wasn't getting better. After 3 nights of scavenging we finally managed to find some medicine, but before it could be administered, 2 kids came begging at the door, saying their mother was gravely ill and needed meds if she and they were going to survive. We debated it for a long time. We wanted to help, but keeping one of our guys sick would cut down our workforce by 1/3. We'd be less able to defend ourselves, and if someone else got sick or even wounded, we might not survive at all. The cursor hovered over no for a long time before we eventually clicked it and shut the door in the kids' faces. We stood by our decision, but it still gnawed away at us for ages. We felt horrible. I still feel horrible. And honestly, that's one of the most incredible game moments I've had for ages.
So thanks, video games, for convincing me I'm probably an awful, awful person.
What's wrong with me?